It's been over a month since the last episode of Young Sheldon aired. I promised I would finish this show, at least the first season, so it's time for me to upload the third and last part of my Young Sheldon is Not Good series, which is relieving. I'm sick of reviewing individual episodes. Oh, fun fact, in case you didn't know, part 1 and 2 received copyright strikes from Amazon Seller Services. Despite the fact that they don't own Young Sheldon, they were the pure definition of false third-party strikes. But don't worry, the OG owners eventually had a piece of the cake by claiming both of my videos. One was my review of the pilot, which was eventually released after being blocked worldwide, and the other one was part 1, which as of writing the script still hasn't been released. Oh wait, last minute update, it has been released but only because the claim was expired. Also, they were manual claims, so someone actively claimed my videos. But whatever, I'm sure everything will go back to normal eventually. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, Young Sheldon fucking blows. Oh, would you look at that? It's another episode where Sheldon goes through something and deals with his struggles in the weirdest and most eccentric way possible, and then Mary and George have to deal with Sheldon's wacky adventures. I'm feeling so tense watching Sheldon quit science. This is totally not something temporary and only present to bring conflict for this self-contained episode. I mean, how would I know that Sheldon will eventually follow theoretical physics? Hey look, the following episode is about Sheldon being bullied by a girl. It's so funny because she's a cute girl and you would never expect her to be a bully. This is totally not an overused trope and so outdated at this point. Wait, hold on. An episode I can actually relate to. I also think flipping your shit over a comic book is pretty dumb. A tornado. Maybe this will end up having an interesting ending. Oh my god! This scene looks bad. Ah yes, the speechless hug that signifies peace and love. Make sure to play that uninspired sentimental score. Okay, an episode about some old and socially awkward professor having a crush on Mima. I guess they're developing a romantic relationship. Can't wait to see where this goes. Oh wait, I won't, cause I'm never watching Young Sheldon again. I'm sure they'll just break up later on to fire up the story. Will they eventually reconcile? Whoever is willing to put up with this will answer once the later season starts airing. You know, at this point, Young Sheldon is just a visual embodiment of white noise. My level of apathy while watching it makes it harder for me to justify myself, which makes it frustrating for people who do like Young Sheldon and want to understand why I feel the way I do, although I'd like to think that my previous videos did a decent job explaining why I don't like this show, and with this video, I don't really have much to say about the remaining episodes that will add something new into the conversation, so instead I want to tackle some semi-related topics that have to do with how people are appreciative of the show. I've gotten a lot of responses from people saying something along the lines of, at least it doesn't have laugh tracks, which is a sentiment overwhelmed with conflicting feelings from my side. Now, let me make something clear. I agree, I full-heartedly agree that the show excluding laugh tracks made it more bearable. I also agree that compared to The Big Bang Theory, Young Sheldon has a better sense of tone. I think it's better when a comedy doesn't overheat itself with constant comedy, which is an issue that a lot of sitcoms, especially The Big Bang Theory, suffer from. But what bothers me about this defense is that it possesses this damning sense of leniency, which I guess it's more of a result of context. Obviously because it's a spin-off of The Big Bang Theory, it's gonna get compared to it, but I don't think judging the show solely based on that is the right way to go, because The Big Bang Theory is not exactly something you should characterize it by having even a moderate bar or standard, at least when it comes to some of its elements. The things Young Sheldon do have already been done by other shows, except miles better. Everything from its exclusion of laugh tracks to the way it balances its tone, they're not really something that should be considered worthy of celebration. It should be considered the norm. I get so pissy whenever I hear Young Sheldon's narration and seeing them taking advantage of it for comedic purposes and foreshadowing, and they do it in the exact same way other shows with narrators do, to the point where it's annoyingly predictable. Oh, and speaking of which, how fucking predictable is the comedy in this series? Now, I'm not saying I'm against character-based humor. I actually like when a joke comes from a character's personality, and I do believe characters are funnier when you're familiar with them, but I feel like Young Sheldon takes that to a ridiculous degree. I never fail to predict whenever Missy makes some kind of snide remark, whenever the narrator comments on how much of an idiotic slob Georgie is, whenever the show wants to stroke Sheldon's ego by highlighting his intellect. And even ignoring that, I still remember that one joke about people generally not finding Mary to be pleasant, and everything from its original seed to the eventual payoff, which later served a role in ending that scene in order to transition to the other one, and the stock-ish background music that's very common in sitcoms, even in some of the best ones, playing during the last few seconds of the scene. Every little detail about that joke, I knew it was going to happen, and this is very common in Young Sheldon. This is why I just want people to stop saying things like, at least it doesn't have laugh tracks. Yes, I agree its exclusion is beneficial, but sitcoms shouldn't have laugh tracks to begin with. And even then, Young Sheldon still needs more work if they want their humor to be even remotely respectable, so let's tackle that instead. But for now, let's tackle something else that I don't see a lot of people do, which is the presentation. I'm honestly shocked that people aren't bored by it. Young Sheldon has the most basic bitch sitcom presentation. Now, I fucking hate the Big Bang Theory's overused and outdated multi-camera format trying to emulate live theaters that also end up possessing the same flaws like bad audio and horrible outdoor locations. But despite that, at least the Big Bang Theory has something that the Young Sheldon doesn't, which are distinct transitions. Most multi-camera sitcoms transition their scenes by playing a short instrumental song, usually rock, and before we witness the next scene, we see an establishing shot featuring the outside of whatever location they are. The Big Bang Theory, however, removes all of that and changing scenes by showing a giant moving atom with a distinct sound effect in between the previous and the next scene. This at least can serve as an identity. It's something I wouldn't get if I watch any other sitcom. But what about Young Sheldon? What do they do that feels unique when compared to other single camera sitcoms? Nothing! Same boring conversational scenes shot in the exact same way with the same boring camera positions, dry movements, and same music with no personality whatsoever. Although to be fair, Young Sheldon isn't the only one guilty of this. A lot of sitcoms are like this. I feel like a lot of people don't really expect comedy movies and television shows to be visually stunning. I guess people care more about the writing, which it's kind of strange because this only seems to be a thing in the live action side of film. In animation, this is not an issue. Animators and storyboarders actually care about its presentation and taking advantage of animation techniques to create nice sequences and visual gags. Even in less humorous moments, I honestly believe that even if I watch a comedy cartoon featuring a scene with a tornado, it wouldn't look as bad as this. And I mean, you could just assume that whoever directed this episode doesn't have much experience with anything other than a basic sitcom, which, I mean, saying that doesn't really make Young Sheldon look better, but what about that one time John Favreau directed the pilot? He's a talented director, but there were scenes there that looked awful. I remember one time watching an episode of Squid Girl, which by the way is also a comedy, where one of its segments was about a creepy doll. In typical episodes of Squid Girl, the colors look natural, with slightly more emphasis on blue-collar set pieces when it's taking place on the main beach setting. But with this segment, we saw a more dead and transparent green color gradient, and as it's progressed, the brightness was scaling down, which lined up with how the segment was getting creepier as the clouds were increasing and getting darker, and we learned more about the spooky doll. Plus, you can also notice the change in the background music, which went for a more unsettling tone. And keep in mind, Squid Girl isn't by any stretch one of the best directed shows I've seen art-wise, and yet it's more visually outstanding than the live-action sitcoms I tend to see. Aside from shows like Community, I don't see a lot of sitcoms going crazy with its art direction. They just want to go for the same basic presentation with minimal effort in every single fucking episode. In my opinion, this is a result of expectation. People don't really expect comedies to look like cinematic wonders, which, I mean, I guess everyone can have their own set of priorities. I'm not really trying to give anyone flack for not caring about the same things I do, but I'm also trying to make everyone understand why I get bored whenever I watch a sitcom like Young Sheldon. And it's why I feel the urge to give credit to the comedy shows that actually do have visual personality. But then I never do because I don't actually care that much about live action shows. The one thing I find funny about my distaste for Young Sheldon is that I'm one of the few people who dislikes the show, not specifically because of Sheldon. As I've said before, I don't really mind his character. He's not insufferable in my eyes, like how a lot of people feel. He's actually less annoying than Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, which I also don't really hate that version. In fact, the one thing I'll praise this show for is that they've made a condescending neat freak really sympathetic. even if I don't think he's all that funny or entertaining. I also think this show does a really good job writing dialogue between two male characters. They're some of the most pleasant and endearing moments in the show. Well, I think I've said pretty much everything I could say about Young Sheldon. It's just a mediocre show. I hope I never get to revisit the show again. I don't want to hear anyone telling me to check out the second season because it's quote unquote getting better. I just want to return to watching cartoons for babies, even though I might have to make a video on the Big Bang Theory once I reach 3,000 subscribers, which I kind of regret making that promise because I have to sit through more than 10 seasons. To wrap things up, Young Sheldon gets I don't know, which rating do you think I should give to Young Sheldon? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.